All right. Looks like we're live. I certainly hope so. Oh, what a week. What a week it has been. Thanks so much for joining me. Goran Radanovic here for Finish First Financially. It's a personal finance channel where we discuss everything related to finances. Well, mostly your personal finances, obviously. There's some other general finances that we also discuss as well. But I like to keep it personal. that's that's how I do things. So there's nothing better than focusing on you, on me, on us, so that we can all learn and improve our finances and get to a place where we want to be. I know for me, when I started this journey when I was homeless, fortunately, I eventually managed to get a room at my friend's house who was kind enough to help me. My goal was just to have an income. I couldn't do anything. Obviously, I wanted to get out of debt. I wanted to have savings. But I didn't have an income. That was the biggest problem. I knew that if if I could sort that part of my life out, then I would have money coming in and I'd be able to pay off debt and so forth. And what I really realized is that once I started receiving an income, that wasn't good enough. An income alone wasn't the solution to my problems because I had an income before, yet I had debts and then I eventually ended up homeless. But the solution wasn't income. And that's when I worked on, conditioning myself to be a saver, living below my means, not needing all of these things that were adding nothing to me but expenses and debt. So it was a combination of many things that led me to get out of debt and to have savings. But obviously, income was one of the main things. Without an income, you don't really have a tool to get out of your problems. You can now all of a sudden have conditioned yourself to become a saver, but without an income, you can't pay off your debt and you can't even build your savings. So income is very important. And today I wanted to, once I got out of debt, I started building my savings. And the thing about savings is that first of all, it was just to get out of debt was an amazing feeling. That was surreal, to be completely honest with you, because when I looked at my debt, it was just like this mountain that seemed like I wasn't going to be able to climb to the peak, the summit. But I managed to. And I took it, step by step. And then eventually my last debt that I paid off was a personal loan. I paid it off one lump sum, which was fantastic because I'd been saving up for that day and it came. And that was, I believe, in November 2022. So it's been almost 2 years now. Let's say, yeah, I'm about four months away from it being 2 years that I've been debt free. And it's an amazing feeling. And what happened to me after I paid off my debts is that I now all of a sudden didn't have all these payments going out to debtors. That money was staying in my account. So my savings grew. And that was just an amazing thing to see because, it took me years, I think probably like 7 years to pay off my debt. It was like $40,000. I remember it took me so long because I'd literally started from the street. So, if you have steady income and you're kind of keeping up with your payments, you should be able to pay your $40,000 sooner than that. But I was in a really bad situation. So it took me that long. But then once I paid it off, my savings just grew exponentially because at the time, I was actually saving 90% of my salary. Can you believe it? 90% because I was living the minimalist lifestyle and I didn't have any debt payments. So I think my expenses were something like food, internet, obviously utilities, gym, transport. At the time, I was even using public transports, and I was hardly ever using it. So that expense was minimal. And I mean, that was pretty much it. I had like really few expenses, no going out, no buying new clothing, none of that, even though I had a good income. Yeah. So, and I was managing 90% of my salary. So you can see how the amount of disposable income that I had to spend on certain things. But because I'd conditioned myself to save, I just carried on saving and living the minimalist lifestyle. It became my norm. It wasn't strenuous. It wasn't pain. It wasn't a struggle. It just became who I am in my entire lifestyle. So my savings grew exponentially and grew very quickly. I think within a period of about 2 years, maybe even sooner than that. I can't really remember. It was sooner than that I managed to save up about close to $50,000. I had some savings throughout that period. So, yeah, let's say 2 years that it took me to save up $50,000. That's a relatively short period of time to save up that amount of money. And that was because I was saving up 90% of my salary. I was just saving it. But what I wanted to do, to grow my savings even more is to ensure that I didn't spend that money, that the savings grew on its own. So one of the things that I did was invest the money into a high yield savings account. And I still have money in that account, and it's earning me just over 7% interest annually. And that's not bad. That's not bad considering you've got S&P 500 index, which is usually returned an average of 10%, 10, 11% annually. But there's also fees involved there. And that's not guaranteed, remember. So I've got a guaranteed 7% that's coming in. So I'm okay. There's another account that I'm looking at as well that's actually 11%. So I've got plans to invest in that as well. And remember, this amount I'm receiving interest on a monthly basis, and it's just being compounded. Not withdrawing that money, it's just growing. So that was one of the strategies that I used, right? To ensure that my savings didn't dwindle. I don't want my savings to dwindle because the point of savings is to grow it. It's not to eventually get to a place where you start spending it and then the balance starts lowering, you're depleting it. That's not the point of it. But obviously, you want to also enjoy some of your money. That's another thing that people struggle with once they've conditioned themselves, once they've made that shift from spender to saver, and now they're just saving and they've gotten out of debt and it feels great and their savings is growing. They're like, well, how the heck am I going to now start spending money? This feels so good. My balance is growing. Now you're telling me I'm going to spend it. I don't want to do that. It's painful. Don't take my money away from me. Nobody's taking it away from you, but you feel like you're doing it to yourself when you spend. And you don't want to see that balance decrease. You like when it keeps growing, it's increasing. That gives you a lot of satisfaction. As I say, when you become a saver as opposed to being a spender, spenders are concerned about the possessions that they have so that they can impress others with things that actually belong to the bank. They don't even belong to them. Whereas once you condition yourself to become a saver, you're much more concerned about growing your net worth, and spending any of your savings decreases that net worth and makes you feel like you're going backwards, and you don't want that. You want to keep going forwards. So that's what I was concerned about, going forward and growing my savings. And one of the things that helped me was the high yield savings account. It was. Remember, that's a savings account. It's not an investment. There's a difference. But it definitely did help, right? I just hope we're live. But yeah, it looks like it. Anyway, this will be uploaded to the different podcast platforms. So I will get it out there, even if it's not on YouTube. Just keep in mind that this is not financial or investment advice. I just share my experiences. This is purely for entertainment purposes. It's up to you what you do with your money, what you don't do with your money. It's your thing. And now I wanted to grow the savings even more, but I didn't want to necessarily go and invest money into something risky. Because remember, I view investments as, if I invest in something, it's almost as if I write that investment off because it's risky. And there is no guarantee. Whether you invest in real estate, whether it's the stock market, whether it's gold, bonds, whatever it is, there is no 100% guarantee on an investment. Excuse me. It can always go down to zero. It can turn out to be a scam. You never know. So there is no guarantee. So when I invest in something, this is money that I can afford to lose, I suppose you could say. I'm not going to be happy about it, but I'm willing to just let it go and say, okay, that was a bad investment, or that was a decision that I made which didn't turn out to be financially successful, and that's just the way it is. It's not gonna be a case of now invested my last bit of money into this, or I really need that money, and I'm hoping that this investment is going to take off so I can solve all my other problems and hopefully pay off debt and then have more savings. No, it's not like that. So what I realized is that in order to grow my savings, I need to invest it. I need to invest that money. And one of the things that I looked at several things actually, there's obviously the stock market and all of that, but I wanted to have cash flow. I wanted my money, I understood that I'm going to make this investment, but I want to start receiving returns from this investment as soon as possible. And that's when I realized that in order to grow my savings, I need to invest it in assets that produce cash flow, that are highly likely to go up in value. Obviously, there's no guarantee with any of these investments, but I wanted to spend an amount of money that I could afford to lose and that I felt wasn't too big enough for me to now lose sleep over, obviously. And it was important for the asset to start generating revenue as soon as possible, and hopefully for the asset itself to increase in value. And that's exactly what I found in my vending machines. So I'm going to go into an article that I wrote on finishfirstfinancially.com. The article is called "The Best Way to Increase Your Savings." So let's just check it out here. I wrote it in May this year. So I said, paying off my debt enabled me to save a tremendous amount of money because most of my income wasn't used to pay creditors. After I paid $40,000 of debt, it took me about 2 years to save $50,000. That's a significant amount of money. Although I was thrilled with the progress I made, I didn't want my savings to dwindle because of inflation or spending. I wanted to grow my savings to ensure that it never ran out again. I continued to add to my savings account monthly, but I wanted my money to work for me. It was evident to me that if I stopped working, my savings account would stop growing unless I did something with it. So that's the thing. Also keep in mind that, one of the important things of investing in assets that generate an income is that, if I hadn't invested in my money into these assets, then when I stop working at night, or let's just say my income stopped now, I no longer have an income coming in. And although the savings account is growing because of the interest, in that situation, I'd probably have to withdraw money from the savings account because I no longer have an income. I still need to fund certain expenses. So that's why, you know, investing in these assets was also kind of like a backup plan. If I have a job and I'm investing in assets and the assets are generating me an income, now all of a sudden I lose my job, I still have some money coming in from the assets. So it's a backup plan. But I'll tell you why. You will get to the part in this article of how the vending machines really kind of covered me from several angles. So we'll get to that. That's when I realized that I needed to invest my money so that it would grow. But how? I looked at what rich people were doing and discovered that they used their savings to buy assets. That's what they were using their savings to buy. Assets. So the difference between spenders and savers is gratification. Spenders need instant gratification by spending their money to treat themselves. Savers choose to delay spending their money and receive gratification from increasing their net worth. Yeah, so that's the one thing that I said now. Yeah, I enjoy seeing my savings account, my investments grow, my net worth grow, as opposed to that gives me more satisfaction than spending my money on the latest phone, which is, I think, just the stupidest thing. I mean, I've used one phone for like 5 years. What's the difference between that one and a new model? Very, very little, and it's insignificant. So I don't derive pleasure from, you know, having the latest gadgets or showing off or anything like that. I think the biggest way to show off is if you can grow your savings accounts and investments and your net worth. Okay, so because spenders use their income for shopping sprees, they don't have any money left at the end of the month. Of course, savers increase their net worth by buying assets that generate an income. Okay, so instead of spending the money they saved, savers will only spend a portion of their profits after they have recuperated the entire amount of the investment. So listen to that. Instead of spending the money they saved, so now you're out of debt and you start saving money, savers will now invest that a portion of that saved money into an asset which will yield a profit. Hopefully it will generate income and yield a profit. And only once they've recouped that entire investment amount do they start taking out a portion from the profit. Okay, so let's see how that affects you. So that enables them to have the original amount of their savings, right, that they invested into the asset, as well as an asset that is generating profits. Just think about how powerful that is, right? So you've taken your money, you've taken the money that you've saved, and a portion of it goes into an asset. And then that asset starts generating an income for you. And once you have recouped from the income your entire investment, then only do you start taking a portion of the profits that that asset has generated. So what that leaves you with is an asset that is generating you an income, which has enabled you to recoup all that money. And you've still got savings as well, as opposed to satisfying that need for instant gratification and spending the original savings on something stupid like a new phone. And then you no longer have the savings and you don't have an asset that is generating your income and you don't have any profits. So think about that. Think about that. That's how valuable investing in an asset is. It's really profound stuff. Okay, so where was I? That enables them to have the original amount of their savings, as well as an asset that is generating profits. That's a much better position to be in than a spender who has no savings, assets, or profits after spending his or her entire income. Okay, so what assets did I buy? While deciding the best asset to buy, I wanted my savings to grow. I found a high yield savings account that pays 7% interest annually for keeping my money in the bank. That's guaranteed, so it's extremely low risk. Right. Instead of withdrawing the earnings, I kept them in the account. My initial investment and interested earned interest. Every month, my balance was compounded. I still have that account and it's increasing my savings without me doing anything. It's completely passive. Yeah, I don't do anything on that account. Just I receive income interest every single month. Eventually, I invested in coffee vending machines. I found high traffic areas and then set up my machines. I have to fill the containers with coffee and water, but for the most part, the income is largely passive. That's because my customers put money into the machine, which makes them coffee. So, I mean, all I do is really fill up the machine and then my customers and the machine does the rest. They complete the transaction. So, three important things I learned about assets. So, this is actually quite valuable. And if you can get all of these three things, I know it's not always possible because the type of business that you choose and your location and so forth. But I found that if you can combine these three factors, then you've got a solid foundation and a business that could do extremely well. So I said, ideally, you want your product service to be available globally and to be passive. An ebook published on Amazon is a great example of achieving both. But what if you're not a writer or aren't interested in an online business? What assets are best to buy? So the two factors I love the most about generating income from coffee vending machines are that I'm not location dependent and I earn while I sleep. And that is absolutely crucial to consider. Think about it. If you are only making money while you're working, then your income stops when you stop working. And you want to be in a business where it generates an income while you sleep, while you are awake. Just work until you're going to have to work until your last day. So those two things are extremely important. Sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulties, but anyway, let's get back to it. So I said, the factors I love the most about generating income from coffee vending machines are that I'm not location dependent and I earn while I sleep. So I can put my vending machines anywhere in town that I choose, that I have an agreement with. If I can come to an agreement with somebody whom I can use electricity from. And if the one location doesn't work, then I just move my vending machine to another location. It's not like I've rented a retail space from somebody and now it's not a great location. What do I do with that? It's not like I can move that retail space somewhere, whereas I can move my vending machines. That's the really great thing. So I'm not location dependent, and these machines make me money while I sleep. So said I can visit friends, work on projects, or even surf the net while my machines make me money. I don't have to be at a specific location to generate an income. The other one, which is even more important, is that my coffee machines generate revenue while I sleep. As rich people say, if you're not earning money while sleeping, you work until you die. So every morning I check my application and see that people bought coffee from my machines throughout the entire night. If your asset cannot generate an income while you sleep, it limits your earnings to the time that you're able to service customers. Your asset has operating hours and it earns only during that period. My assets generate income 24/7. So my vending machine is plugged in and it works 24/7. While I'm busy sleeping, people are buying coffee. And I wake up in the morning and I see there were sales throughout the night. So that's the nice thing. And one of the things that I mentioned earlier is about why are these vending machines kind of like a low risk investment? Why were they for me? It's because there's not a lot of them. It's difficult to find them. They've sold out. These good ones, they're good models. They've sold out. But there are quite a few buyers. So now if I had to sell mine, I'd sell it at a profit. But I can also, once I've expanded this business, I can sell the business. And the investment itself, I mean, these are secondhand machines. So it's not like I now opened up a supermarket and the investment's a couple of $1,000,000. This was a couple of $1,000. And it's because the initial investment was low. To make that investment back, it's not going to take me years. It's going to take me a couple of months to get all of my money back because of the initial investment amount being only a few $1,000s. If it had been several tens of thousands of dollars, well, then that would have taken me longer. So I just found that these vending machines were just a great investment. Everybody loves good coffee, and mine is affordable, it's good quality, and it's situated in the right location. So I said examples of income generating assets. Investing in stocks enables you to do it from anywhere in the world, and investment is passive. Because remember, I was saying, the ideal investment is it's online and it's passive, so that you can you're not location dependent. And also, okay, well, the stock market does close at Monday to Friday. It trades Monday to Friday, so on the weekends it doesn't trade. Whereas my machines are working throughout the night, working throughout weekends, public holidays, doesn't matter. So certain financial markets are open 24 hours a day, so you could potentially earn while you sleep. Okay, so there are certain assets that trade throughout the entire night, crypto being one of them, although I would never advise anybody to invest in crypto, even though I'm a crypto investor, because it's just dangerous. There's just so many scams. And to be completely honest, it's really based on speculation. It's not, crypto isn't being used for what it's meant to be yet. Maybe someday it will. So it's purely based on speculation. Buying real estate and renting it is another great asset that generates income. You enable customers to book online and do a self check-in. You'll have to clean the place, repair damages, and answer queries. But your real estate generates an income without you needing to be at a specific location. And an overnight stay means that you earn while you sleep. So there's those two factors, not being location dependent and earning money while you sleep. And obviously the third one is if it's passive. That's really great. But if it's not, if you can have those two factors where you're not location dependent and you earn while you sleep, even if it's just an asset that helps you to generate income while you sleep, that's good enough. That's good enough for me. So that's I think we covered quite a bit in there. So I think just to touch on those three important points that I mentioned again, which are having an asset that's preferably online, that is available globally, because the more people that have access to it, the more income you're likely to generate. So as I mentioned, an ebook, like I've written a book and I just posted onto Amazon, that's available globally. Also, the second point, the asset should generate you an income throughout while you're not working on it, while you are away from it, while you are sleeping. So an asset that generates income 24/7. So anybody can buy a book online at any time, anywhere in the world. These are just examples. There's obviously other assets that you can use. And then the other one, which is also extremely important, is that it generates a passive income, so that you're not involved all the time, that you don't have to be there, you don't have to do the book distribution, you don't have to answer queries all the time. If it can just, it's up there online, and if you've laid out all of the information and people know what it's about and they just click and buy it themselves, then you've got the perfect business. Obviously, it's not always possible to have all three, where you're online and it's generating your income 24/7 and it's passive. That's not always possible. But if you strive, if I had to choose one of those three, for me, the most important one would be that it's generating me an income 24/7, even when I'm not involved in the business. That would be key for me. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for joining me. Always, I try Monday to Friday, but at least 3 times a week. You know, you can catch us on YouTube, Finish First Financially. Also, go into the blog, finishfirstfinancially.com, and the podcast platforms, all the major ones. I put up all of these recordings on there, and I'll probably catch you